Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accountants come to learn all the ways you can grow your firm. When you are in doubt, we are here to help you out. If you're ready to learn, ready to grow your firm, then you are in the right place to sharpen those skills and increase your revenue. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast, where accountants come to learn all of the ways that you can grow your firm. And as you know, when you're in doubt, I am here to help you out. And if you're ready to learn and ready to grow your firm, then you are in the right place to sharpen your skills and increase your revenue. Today, we have a very special guest right here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This guest is an author of a book called Subtle Words That Sell. I will put that in the show notes below. Let's welcome Ross Jeffries to the show.
Well, hello, accounting professionals. This is Ross Jeffries. I am the wizard of Subtle Words That Sell. And of course, that is my book, Subtle Words That Sell. I'm here to share my knowledge with you so you can show your worth and explain your pricing and value as an accountant.
Well, thank you for introducing what we're talking about today. So today we're going to go over, how do you really show your worth? How do you explain your pricing and value as an accountant, as a CPA, or as an enrolled agent, and not allow your clients to dictate your pricing? And Ross has a lot of great points on it. And I said, who's not like the best guest to bring on other than Ross Jeffries himself, the author of Subtle Words That Sell. So personally, myself, the pitch queen, I've frequently heard a lot of accountants losing out on sales because they don't know really what they're worth or what should they charge their client. And this is a major concern because they get, this amazing accountant as a client, and then they just really don't have the confidence to show their value and show their pricing that they really want to charge when they're taking on a new client or going through a discovery session with a client. So, their clients kind of pick up on the fact that they don't have the confidence, and that's where really they're lacking. So in this episode today, we want to really help you know your worth so that you can help more people and also increase the revenues of your firm, because this is the Abundant Accountant. So not only is it about creating a life of abundance, but it's also about creating that firm that you really want to grow, of the abundant clients that you want to work with. So it's not taking on all the clients in the world. It's taking the right clients and having the confidence to also share with them their price. So Ross, from your point of view, as it relates to, showing your worth, how to explain pricing and value to prospects, and underlying conversation here is this confidence piece. What do you feel is the number one thing that an accounting professional really needs to focus on when they are meeting their clients for the first time?
Well, first and foremost, let me say that confidence, I have different definitions of it. The first thing I would say is a confident person is not conflicted. There's not a part of you that's holding back while another part wants to move forward. May I tell a brief little story as an illustration, Michelle, of this principle?
Yes, we love stories here on the Abundant Accountant Show. So stories is the best thing to really, at least for me, I like to hear stories so it makes sense and I can tie in what you're talking about. Because just so everyone knows, Ross is really techie and technical. And he will tell us and share with us all sorts of really awesome technical words that if you put it into a story, it will help me out and help every person here listening.
All right, so I'm going to tell this story. When I was a little kid, I was 8 years old. This is back in 1966. I'm a seasoned gentleman. And being of the Jewish faith, it was Hanukkah time. My sister bought a toy robot for my little brother, Stevie, who is 6 years old. And I like to break my brother's toys. It was just a naughty little habit that I did. So the toy robot back then in 1966, Michelle, toy robots could do three things. You could make them move forward, you could make them move backwards, or you could make their eyes blink. And so being a little schmuck of a kid, I pushed forward and backward at the same time. So the robot started to shake. The motor began to burn. Blue smoke came out of its butt. The robot toppled over face down, did a huge face plant, because the robot had two equally and opposite powerful commands moving through it. The one command said move forward. The other one said go backwards. And so I think this is what happens when we go for the sale. Part of us says move forward, and the other part says, no, don't do it. We're not ready yet. We're not worth it. We don't have the value. So I think confidence means you are not conflicted. You can't sell from your heels. This is a very famous saying. I don't remember who said it, but if you're back on your heels expecting to get hit in the face, you can't throw that punch forward. So it's true. So the first thing is you must be fully aligned. You cannot be conflicted. Imagine a tiger pouncing on its prey. The tiger doesn't go, maybe I'm not worth that prey. I don't mean to say that your clientele or your prey, you're actually in service to them. You are, in fact, a technician who's serving them.
So I have a question because I like that story so everyone can remember when they were a robot. But, there's a really good quote that I love from Bernard Hopkins. He's a professional boxer, and he says, if you don't know your value, somebody will tell you your value and it will be less than what you're worth. So I like to, for each of you listening, you might be able to resonate with this because you're working with a prospect and then you never share that maybe your monthly services to do their bookkeeping and payroll is, let's say, $2,000. And you know that in your head, but because you're lacking the confidence, the $2,000 never comes out of your mouth. And then the client says, oh, well, I'm willing to pay $600. That's really what it means, is like the clients are actually dictating the show, where really we need to focus on working on the confidence level, which Ross is sharing with us today. So thank you, Ross, for being here. Step number one is not being conflicted. So unconflicted, not conflicted, and that every part of you is in alignment. And we spoke about that earlier before we actually started the show today. And I think it's really important that not only you're not conflicted with yourself within, but that every part of you is in alignment as it relates to your firm. So that's the first thing as it relates to confidence. Ross, what's the second?
The second thing is to recognize that confidence is not a thing or a quality per se. It's an activity that you do. I'll say it again. Confidence is not like a thing. If I were to do a course on building confidence and I said to you, who wants to be more confident? And you would raise your hand. I'd say, great. I have 10 gallons of confidence fluid up in my hotel room. It's $500 a gallon. How about I drill a hole in the top of your head and pour it in? You would get the idea. So confidence is not a thing or a quality even of something you have. Later on, it becomes a quality. But in the beginning, it's an activity that you do. It's what you are saying to yourself, what you're visualizing, what you're doing with your breath, and what you're doing with your motion forward. So remember, confidence is not a thing or a quality or a fixed quantity of something like porridge in an orphanage. It is something that you do. It is a series of activities that you do. And that's good news, because it's easier to change what you do than it is to shift or change your identity. This is a very important principle of personal improvement. I'll say it again. It's easier to change what you do than it is to change your sense of identity. This is why I don't like affirmations per se, because if you say, I am a closer, I am a closer, I am a closer, and your unconscious mind has 10,000 examples of where you're not, you're going to get into trouble. But if you say, I now claim my skills as an excellent closer, I now claim my skills as an excellent salesperson of my accounting services, then you're giving your mind a direction to move towards rather than a fixed sense of identity that it may not agree with.
Okay, I have a question, because as an accountant listening, they might be thinking, well, Ross, that's really interesting, but how do I actually apply that to my firm? How do I apply it to maybe increasing my prices a little bit to my next prospect that I'm going to see? Can you give us an actual practical thing that we can implement? Because as you say, it's something we have to do. So it's a series of activities you do. So what's one or two things that someone can change today in their everyday life that would address the second point as it builds confidence?
Okay, this is going to seem absolutely ridiculous, but never underestimate the power of the ridiculous and the absurd to break through ridiculous and absurd limitations, because it really, really works. So one of the little pieces I know from one of my disciplines, neurolinguistic programming, and Michelle has threatened to kill me if I use technical terms, so I'm going to try to avoid it. But we talk about different processing systems. Visual, that's what you visualize in your mind. Auditory, that's what you say to yourself, you hear in your head. Or kinesthetic, that's body sensations, feelings. So within that auditory thing, what you say to yourself, there's a little submodality, which is called, in this case, tone. So here's what you do. If you talk to yourself on the inside and you say things like, well, I'm not worth it, and I shouldn't ask for that much money, you simply change the tone to something like, oh, I'm not worth it. They'd never want to pay me that much money. Now, that sounds ridiculous, but in fact, when you change your internal tone, it changes how you feel about everything. So change your internal tone of voice. That voice in your head that doubts yourself, that says, I couldn't really ask them, say the same thing, but put it in a very deep voice like, oh, I could never ask them that. And I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous when I first tried this 30 years ago, but in fact, it works. Look, it's the answers that come from outside the box that allow you to just kick the box to the curb. I'm not here to show you the light at the end of the tunnel, Michelle. I want to remove the tunnel completely. And so in order to remove the tunnel, you have to do things that you may not be comfortable with.
Okay, what's the second thing they can do?
The second thing they can do is take on a totally different perspective. And instead of trying to grab every client, they can think to themselves, how many unqualified prospects can I eliminate today? Look at the difference in that frame between, oh, I've got to get that client, to how many unqualified prospects can I eliminate today? So make it a matter of you're qualifying the prospect rather than the frame of, oh, please, give me your business. It's you're qualifying to see, is this someone who you really want to work with? That's why you never, ever, ever negotiate your price. You are not the low price bargain. You are the high value premium. Always get that. Always get that. If you can't get that, get out of the business. Get a job at McDonald's.
And not the CPA corporate job at McDonald's, right? But no, and for everyone that has, heard Success Unfiltered, my other podcast, or has, new to this show, it's really true. I mean, changing your internal tone and looking at things from a new perspective, but part of having an abundant life and an abundant firm is really coming from the place of how many unqualified prospects can you get rid of today? And when you can start saying no to more people, which we will talk about in more depth in future episodes, that will increase your value. And by putting these two things into practice, it will ultimately increase your confidence as well. So I know that Ross had one more thing as it relates to building confidence to really not only explain your pricing and value to your prospects, but so you can do it with confidence and that they're not going to tell you your price and then you're definitely not going to be on the bargain shopping. So Ross, what is the third element as it relates to building that confidence?
I'm going to make this one easy. I could get into technical languaging patterns, but I know I'm going to get a lecture from the pitch queen, so I don't want to get her angry at me. So I'm going to keep this one really, really simple. And here it is. There's a distinction here that I call performance confidence. Performance confidence means you've done something really well, say 1,000 times. 1,000 times you've walked the tightrope in the circus. So 1,001, you can naturally expect you'll do well. Well, the problem with many people who haven't yet done well at something, like making sure they're paid what they're worth, is they're waiting for that confidence, but they won't perform until they have the confidence, but they can't get the confidence until they perform. So instead, I want you, rather than waiting to be super confident, I want you to take on what I call willingness. Willingness is simply exactly what it sounds like. The willingness to take the step, even if you're not certain. Embracing uncertainty is more important than a futile chase for certainty. I'll say it again. Embracing uncertainty is far more powerful and far more important than a futile chase for certainty. Whenever you chase certainty, I want you to think of a dog chasing its tail. You can never catch it. And if I can add another metaphor, Michelle, that's really, really powerful, may I?
Sure.
Okay, so many people have what I call the vending machine theory of sales. You put in your 50 cents of prospecting, you put in your 50 cents of getting rapport with your potential client, you put in your 50% of your value proposition, your 50% of your closing technique, and out comes the candy bar of the sale. This is the vending machine theory. Well, I have the learn to paint theory, and it goes like this. Selling sometimes can be like learning to paint, but the canvas keeps moving, it keeps changing shape, it keeps disappearing, and sometimes when you dip the brush in the paint, a different color comes out. So you need to be able to embrace uncertainty and a little bit of chaos. When you can embrace uncertainty, you have a confidence that is not dependent on the events of the day or your feelings in the moment. I'll say it again. When you can embrace uncertainty and even enjoy it, you then have a confidence, a motivation that is independent of the events of the day or your feelings in the moment. That is super important. That is $1 million little gold nugget I threw your way, all without any technical words. So I hope that the pitch queen is happy with me and doesn't smack me.
I'm not going to smack you because, I've never heard it that way before, but I love the paint theory because when I was actually painting not too long ago, I was in Maui. My best friend lives in Maui and her son, I had to babysit a 4-year-old.
Oh,
yeah, a 4-year-old. So imagine this. We get out all the colors and we put the purple with the white and we got like lavender and then we did the green. No, we got the blue and the yellow paint and mixed it and we got green. And every time we dipped the brush in the paint, it would always change and the colors never came out the way I wanted it. And it's very similar to the sales process for each of you. Just so you know, that's pretty much all I do all day. I do podcasts and I have a lot of phone calls with people and I do a lot of what Ross just talked about. How many unqualified prospects can I eliminate in a day is always my goal. But I embrace uncertainty and I believe that, confidence is just that. It's becoming independent of actually the outcome that happens. And when I was painting this painting with the 4-year-old, it didn't look anything of what I was trying to create, but I was really not attached to the outcome. And I just embraced the moment. And I believe that working with your clients and through your discovery sessions with your clients and sharing with them that you charge $2,000 a month or $3,000 or $5,000 to manage 5 different business entities and do their payroll and do their bookkeeping or whatever service it is that you provide to your clients, that if you can really embrace the uncertainty, your results will be significant. So, Ross, what are 1 or 2 things that each accountant, CPA, enrolled agent listening today can implement tomorrow in their everyday activity to put into practice what we're talking about? For me, it comes naturally. For you, it comes naturally. But, let's pretend everyone's learning how to ride a bike here because, everyone who's listening, especially if you're your own business, you signed up for a 24/7 sales career. But in your accounting undergrad programs or in your master's of tax programs or in your CPA course or exam preps, I'm sorry, but sales wasn't covered in that. And, now you're responsible to answer the phone and deal with the question that you get a lot, like, how much do you charge? Right? And all these things when you don't really know technically how to handle it. So
Can I answer one of those things, which is don't ever have that discussion about what you charge until you first find out what their needs are and what their problems are. And then you turn around and you feed. One of the things that I learned from a mentor is ask, well, what are your big challenges? Then put the phone on mute. So literally, you don't say a danged, I'm watching my language, a danged word. And so when you can specifically address what they brought up, then your price becomes a secondary thing. So you need to learn to do that. That's first and foremost. And the second thing is to make them understand the net value proposition, which is to say, whatever that might be, you make it very clear and you say, so as you think about what it would be like to enjoy all these things, what you need to know is that your investment in my services, here are the services I'll give you, you understand? And your investment in what I'll be giving you, what I'll be providing to you is the following. So it's not about what you're asking, it's about what you're giving. You set that frame.
Perfect. So again, back to where we were a little bit ago, and I'm glad you reiterate everything that I talk about. So for each of you listening, if you go to abundantaccountant.com, you can sign up for my masterclass where I discuss exactly what Ross was talking about. And that is, how do you answer that dreaded question, how much do you charge, without actually answering that question? So if you want to learn more, again, head over to theabundantaccountant.com or abundantaccountant.com to enroll in that. But Ross, back to what we were talking about.
Sorry about that.
Because he went a little off track. And
Yeah, but it's your wisdom, and it so blows my mind, it bears repeating.
Okay. What are one or two things that each CPA, enrolled agent, accountant listening today can do to work on embracing this uncertainty, right? You've been in sales for quite a while. I have as well. I have embraced it by taking action. And if you don't know Mel Robbins, she has this thing called the 5-second rule. And she talks a lot about how confidence is built on taking action. And you have to take little baby steps of action each day to get to your level of confidence that you can go into client meetings and charge literally whatever you want, and people will pay it to you all day long. But again, what are one or two things that people can do to embrace uncertainty, to embrace it? Do they have to paint with a 4-year-old every day, or what else could they do?
Well, one of the things that I do to embrace uncertainty, I'm just going to say it, it's not for everyone. I do a meditation practice because meditation teaches me to accept whatever is coming up in the moment. So when you can learn to accept what's coming up in the moment, I like to meditate, believe it or not, when those god-awful leaf blowers are going off. I really do. They drive me crazy. They give me migraines. But if I can sit there and allow that to flow through me, I know I can put up with anything. So a meditation practice allows you to be okay with what is. And that trains you to be okay with uncertainty. If you can sit there with the leaf blower going off like 15 feet underneath your window. So develop a meditation practice. That's so important to be able to accept anything that arises. The second thing I would say is learn to see the funny side of it. Understand the perspective of it, that one day you're going to draw your last breath. And so is the person who's frustrating you or who you want something from. So learn to have a sense of perspective. When you have that sense of perspective, when I'm going into a difficult situation, I do the following. I ask myself, what was that person wearing the moment they were born? And what was I wearing the moment I was born? And what's the last thing they're ever going to do? And what's the last thing I'm ever going to do? And in between, we're trying to figure it out. So keep your sense of perspective. That's a really, really, really important one. And the final thing is you always have to get up to the plate before you can swing the bat. And you have to get up to the bat before you can hit it out of the park. Very, very, very important. And remember this, there's no such thing as being someone out of your league. There's no client out of your league when you're willing to step up to the plate. I'll say it again, there's no client who's out of your league when you're willing to step out of the plate. There are no super big clients. There's only incredible value opportunities for you. There are no super big clients. There are only incredible opportunities for you to provide amazing value. Do those mental reframes and you're going to be okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ross, for joining us here on the Abundant Accountant Show. And it was an honor to have you.
It's always a pleasure to address your audience and to interact with an absolute genius like you. You are a brilliant business person. I learn a lot from you. I really do.
What an amazing show with Ross. He is a genius. I know he always calls me a genius, but he's a genius too. And in the show notes, I will put a link to his book. Again, if you want to get it, it's called Subtle Words That Sell. It's really coming from a place of service and a place of abundance. So him and I are extremely in alignment with everything we talk about. It's almost a little bit scary. But just to really remember, if you can take one or two things of what you heard today and put it into action. And for me, it just stems from the one of doing my painting and being so frustrated that it looked nothing like the flowers I was really trying to paint that day, and being okay with embracing, uncertainty, and how maybe every day you go about your life, you can see what area was not certain to you and how you embrace that and really getting confidence, because it will translate into your business. So I know we did talk about 3 main points, one being not conflicted and every part being in alignment, right? Like he was explaining that toy going backwards and forwards and how it happens all in the same time. And that little voice in our head can really drive us absolutely nutso. Again, becoming outcome independent, so not really being attached to the outcome, and having the performance confidence paradox that he was talking about. We can do something 1,000 times, but if we're waiting for the confidence, we're never going to have the opportunity to even approach our clients and maybe charge $3,000 or $4,000. So what I always like to say is just try something and see how it works, because every little step is that one little ounce of confidence. And if you want to go off the deep end, you can go try a meditation, right? Really accept what's coming up in the moment. I love the leaf blower. Do you know what I actually love is the garbage man? When the garbage man comes, it sounds like a car is being hit and it's like an accident waiting to happen every day. It's so loud and drives me crazy, but I just accept it. So, again, thank you so much for each of you being here and listening. It was an honor to be here with you today. If you have a quick second, I would be grateful if you could leave me a rating and a review on iTunes, and also subscribe to the show. I always like hearing from you, and I never want you to miss when I publish a new show. And one last thing before I let you go. If you ever felt like you give away too much information for free and you're tired of not getting paid what you're worth, you're probably like many accountants that I've worked with, and you feel like you're on a cash flow roller coaster. And I have the solution for you. So you can join me on our accountant masterclass over at theabundantaccountant.com to learn how to communicate your value, collect higher fees with confidence, and be paid what you're worth so you can work less and make more money and live that life of abundance. Once again, visit theabundantaccountant.com. We would love to see you there. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.